Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to The Decision, the EO Nashville podcast by and for entrepreneurs. This is where we tell the stories of life in the midst of entrepreneurship, starting businesses, growing them, all the fun that comes with that, the hard times, the good times, sharing our stories and passing those stories from the front on to the rest of the world. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Robert Hartline.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for hosting. It's a pleasure to be with you as always. And today, our special guest is Elam Freeman with Ojas Partners. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we were talking earlier about the fact that you are a relatively new EO member.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about how you found EO, how your life has changed, your business life has changed since you joined.
Yeah, for sure. So I started my business 4.5 years ago. I was fortunate to be able to do Catalyst within the first 6 months of starting my company. And some current EO members really encouraged me that were also clients or that I'd done business with, cross paths with, that I should just jump right in. So I did Catalyst. And then after that, I was really in the throes of just, startup, wearing every single hat, not necessarily having all of the support around me that I needed to take 4 hours out of a month in the middle of a work day. And so I then went to, I then kind of like pulled back and said, yes, I can meet the revenue goals shortly after I got out of Catalyst, but I waited. And then when I guess it was 2023, I decided to join because I felt like I had a base level of support. I was out of the running around with my hair on fire without any coverage, and felt like, it was time to kind of pull out of the business and be able to look more strategically. And I also, being a younger entrepreneur, don't have many peers that, especially within Nashville, that necessarily relate to my experience. And so I'm not crossing paths socially necessarily with other entrepreneurs in my social life. So it felt like a good idea to join an organization that would have other people that had a lot more years of experience under their belts.
It's really rare that someone would start their business so close to Catalyst and do that. So evidently you maybe have already had a habit of figuring out there's a smarter way to do just about anything. So this is probably carried on earlier in your life. What were you doing before the business started?
Yeah, good question. So I was doing the same work, but I was more, I was not doing it necessarily like on my own because I was at another firm, but within commercial real estate, the more typical structure, our company doesn't operate like this as much, but a typical structure for commercial real estate brokerage is to sort of run your own business within a bigger shop, as they call them. And so I was at another company and then moved over or decided to go out on my own when I started my company. So I was able to move clients over. I wasn't starting from zero, which, I could have been starting from zero. I didn't know the day I decided to make the call, but I knew that if my previous company was going to cooperate, that my clients would move over with me.
And you were a broker?
I was. Yeah.
And what were you focused on?
So my personal focus has always been retail in the urban core. So a lot of our clients are everything but retail developers, actually. They have been focused on office, multifamily, hotel, or a combination, so mixed use. And we would come in and help with the retail component and that's why our business has become more consultative in nature, because the retail is an ancillary part, but such a large piece of amenitizing and setting kind of the brand and the direction for the rest of the project that really drives the NOI.
So you have to be really selective the type of retail you're going to put into development.
Correct.
Because you want the you want the people that are staying in the residential housing or the hotel that have amenities that would enhance the experience, right?
Yep, exactly. So it's given me a really good understanding of all the other asset classes, even though that's not what I've focused on. Because every time we make a decision for retail, we have to ask ourselves how it's impacting, whether it's from a qualitative or a quantitative perspective, the other asset class in the building.
I'm just curious about this in the real estate. Is there a type of retail that's up and coming that you never expected to start?
That's a good question. I think from a perspective of being in Nashville, I'm from here originally. I left for college and then I moved back. And I think that the like overall wellness trend has definitely taken sort of Nashville by storm in a way that like I didn't expect it to when I was living in California, and I moved back here and was like, there's nowhere to get healthy food. There's like very few places that have any kind of like they're there to work out at. And now it seems like there's more like wellness oriented places opening than there are bars.
Yeah. So you got the IV places, the cold plunge places, you got all these spa like services that are popping up everywhere that I find my credit card likes the hell all these things.
Same.
It's like I look back 10 years ago and I would never imagine that every other week I'd be going get an IV for something.
Yeah. And well, it's nice to have things other than, fried chicken in Nashville popping up on every corner.
Yeah.
We need that.
Are they doing well, those kind of places?
I think I'm very still, I feel like it's yet to be determined how much the trend is a trend or whether it's here to stay. I do know that in general, the younger generations are not drinking, going out to bars and stuff as much, and they're finding other alternatives to socialize. And so, if that's something that ends up staying, I think that we're going to be thinking about these things as like cornerstones of the community as opposed to just a in and out like you would as more of a, going to the grocery store or something like that. So it's tough to say, but where the point of saturation exists. But I tend to think that like if someone has all of the fundamentals of being an entrepreneur within reason, regardless of what they do, and if we're just talking about like the brick and mortar retail space, if they have a good vision, they're self-aware and they know what they know and what they don't know and how to surround themselves with the right people, and it's a consumer facing business, I would always every day invest in that entrepreneur than I would invest in a particular concept, because it's probably going to be successful. And if someone knows how to sell to the consumer, they're going to get people in the door for just about whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm always amazed. I live over near 12 South and I drive there all the time.
Yep.
I'm just amazed of all the clothing retailers that have popped up in that area and they've made that their home. And it's because they got tons of foot traffic, and you just don't see a place that has foot traffic like 12 South. It doesn't exist. Like nobody has foot traffic.
No. Yeah. Especially in the South or really in a lot of, Sunbelt markets within the US where you haven't had an urban environment and it's very driving centric. But I think that's what people want, and why you're seeing those types of streets continue to grow and rents grow and foot traffic grow and all of the things. And you're seeing malls not necessarily be the go-to anymore for these brands.
Yeah. So the decision to start your own business must have been a little bit nerve-wracking because you got this existing relationship with an employer and then you want to go off on your own. And how'd that conversation go? Like, hey guys, I'm bailing. I'm going to start my own thing. Was that scary for you?
I would say I was, so I guess a little bit of like backstory is I launched the company in July of 2020, and I was
good timing
planning to,
real estate, no big deal. Everybody's at home. You're like, I'm going to lease out space
and retail.
Yeah, retail restaurants where you're like, are not allowed to be open. I think this is where my like stubbornness and impatience maybe serves an example of where it serves me well. I could give you plenty of examples where it doesn't serve me well as always, but in 2020, or in like the end of 2019, I told myself I'm going to make a change next year. And the firm that I was at, I can't say enough good things about them, but our focuses were just in different places. They were amazing guys. And so at the time, I was trying to remember, I'm like, was I 26 or 27? So, and I had my license. You can get your firm license when you have been a affiliate broker for 3 years. And until around the end of 2019, I had been a affiliate broker for about 2.5 years. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to go ahead and study to be able to take the test to get my firm license, but will be further down the road. Why not just get it done now? I'm kind of a person like, why wait for, it's always better to have, extra education, extra credentials, et cetera, under your belt if you feel like you have the time. So I spent time over the holidays of 2019 taking those tests, knowing that I couldn't even sit for the test until later in the spring, given I needed to hit a 3-year mark. And but in my mind, I was very much going to go work for another firm, or maybe some sort of hybrid where I would open up an office for a firm that was in another city in the US, or another city in the US in Nashville. At that point, I'd grown a pretty large national network, so I knew a lot of people. And so January, February, start having some conversations with various people, both locally, out of town, and one of which was in San Francisco, and for a company that I would open an office for in Nashville or be their boots on the ground, maybe grow up a team around me, depending on how it went. And I was in San Francisco on a Friday, and that was the day everybody like Google and all these major employers were sending their employees home from work in early March. And so I fly home. The next week they call me, hey, we were planning on moving forward, but this pandemic is looming, and we're going to put conversations on pause. So I was like, I wasn't necessarily committed. That was my first time out there meeting with them. I wasn't laser focused just on that opportunity. But all opportunities that I sort of had in the works where we're coming to a screeching halt, because, that's just what was happening in the world at the time. And so I took that for what it was stuck at home with my husband for a few months, March, April, May. He's hearing me just ruminate on all of this. Everything that's going on in my head is verbally coming out. And he's like, why don't you just do your own thing? And that was an option. I wouldn't have taken the test. I wouldn't have done these things in hindsight if that wasn't an option. And honestly, subconsciously, what I thought that I probably should be doing. And I had even set up an LLC just in case and to be prepared. And so finally, he kind of convinced me, probably just because he wanted me to shut up and stop ruminating on it, to do my own thing. And but the problem was it was very hard to sit and take a test, and I was not eligible to take the test till March. So I hadn't hit I wasn't able to get it done before the pandemic. And then, so it kept getting canceled with these like crazy test centers on hold with them for 4 hours. Finally was able to get into a testing center in June, take the test, get it done with. And then, and felt like that backstory was important just to kind of help you guys understand. That was all of that was a little more complicated and confusing and scary. But then when I went to have the conversation with my employer, I was nervous because I think I always, hope for the best, prepare for the worst kind of thing. And so I had talked to an employment attorney, trying to understand what maybe my risks were about leaving. And thankfully, what in a services business, my startup costs were extremely low. So I wasn't, I was saying I was going to leave, and I knew there was a chance that I could get in some sort of legal battle with them in order for my clients to come with me. But ultimately, I had built such a separate business there that there wasn't someone on staff or a broker at that company that could service the clients that I had brought in the door. So they were thankfully committed to move forward with me. There were a few partners at that company, and one of them ended up throwing me a going away party, and they were, it was like,
That's great.
It was really awesome. You have the like worst case scenario in your head, and then you're like, okay, when you do right by people, they're going to celebrate you, even if it's not what's necessarily best for them. And like one entrepreneur sees another entrepreneur kind of thing.
Can we take just a moment just to recognize how incredible the story is? Yeah. I mean, the commercial real estate business is not easy, right? Just as a young broker, and to even have this idea 2.5 years in, and then to act on it, and then do it during COVID, and start your own office without a parent company is absolutely incredible.
And brave as heck. Like while you're talking about this, I had someone that was close to that was in commercial real estate, and he was just in the dumps, and it was really hard to be around him because he was in the dumps because he's in commercial real estate, and he's like, the sky's falling. And here on the flip side is a person going, I'm going to get into this business.
I'm going to charge this hill. Yeah. It's like,
okay,
the sky's the limit. So
that's
gosh, kudos to you.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Now, I'm curious, when you're in Catalyst, you're running your business, you're trying to figure things out. What was the biggest surprise about running your own firm that you weren't ready for?
It's a great question. So many, because I just went in so blindly. And I think what I underestimated, which I guess in turn I wasn't prepared for, is I felt confident that there was proof of concept with demand for the services that I was offering, and for the services that I personally was offering. I underestimated the demand for talent to join in on what I was doing. Now we're 15 people. And if you had have asked me when I started, I would have been like, my goal is to hire an admin and maybe bring on one other junior broker. And, that's kind of will be the epitome of my business. It's funny, like I did never even think about the fact that what I was doing was building something that was like, had the potential to have value outside of just what the income that I brought home from it myself. And so, yeah, I think that was probably what I wasn't prepared for, is managing people, hiring, having realistic expectations around people that you were hiring, that didn't own a company also. So I think that I look back over my life, and I was very fortunate to have had other experiences, while not entrepreneurship, but a lot of other leadership experiences, that while there was a sharp learning curve on the front end, I adapted relatively quickly, because I had done from both a combination of doing personal work and just being very, always being focused on being introspective and learning from my mistakes. And then also from the leadership positions I'd had literally since early in high school. Those things I think served as a good base for me to have experiences in the past to like rely upon and be able to draw connections to what I had learned from those to improve in leadership for the company.
All right, let's talk about leadership in high school. What was that?
I was always, a bit of a misfit, I would say, in high school. And that, I grew up here, and I think, sports is kind of king in most high schools here. Of course, there's a few exceptions, but the one that I went to, and I quickly found out early in high school that sports were not my thing. And so I looked for other outlets. I wasn't really into the arts, or never really had that sort of opened up to me either. So where I found myself is doing more like service type roles. The high school that I went to had a big community service focus. And so that's sort of where I found my, tribe and my purpose and the thing to extracurricular to pad my resume for college. So ended up having leadership positions in their service club and running a summer camp for kids coming in, or underprivileged kids coming in from various other parts of the city. So that was, kind of where I had started and had a lot of my experiences in the extracurricular world in high school.
So what you said sounded like you found purpose much earlier, which is rare for people to catch.
Yeah.
And what was that purpose if you had to define it?
Yeah, are you talking about when I was in high school or in my business?
Well, it's probably interrelated.
Yes,
it's probably the same thing as maybe your unique ability, that thing that you did back then that actually serving you today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would say up until starting my company, there was still a search in a way, and I think every year I further define like what my purpose is, and it's been really, really rewarding. And I feel like the way I've been describing it lately is like I feel like the luckiest person in the world because I've found content that I'm extremely passionate about, a role that I am able to use my unique strengths that are my natural strengths, I'll say, as opposed to like trying to hone these skills that are not necessarily natural to me. And then also working with a culture and a team of people that I literally feel like are my family at this point. And my purpose, my goal in life really is to help as many other people as possible find that for themselves, whether it's in commercial real estate, whether it's in something else they're passionate about. The way I used to put it, but I feel like I've tried to articulate it better and what my why is for it recently, but is in my second life or my second career, I want to be a career coach, which I don't know if that's what I would actually do, but I love talking to people about their careers, what makes them tick and how they can apply that to their life's work. And I think kind of as I guess appendage or part of that is, and something that came to me over the holidays this year is I really feel, just passionate about making sure that people feel like they belong, because I think there's been so many times in my life, and it really wasn't until I started Ojas where I felt like I belonged. Like I said earlier, it's kind of like a misfit or an outsider in so many of the communities that I've been a part of, or didn't feel like I quite fit the mold that I was supposed to fit. And so we at Ojas put a lot of emphasis on people leaning into their unique strengths and not trying to say, okay, well, this is how you're a good broker, because brokerage is a relationship business. And I think that the more unique personality traits that we can have, experiences, backgrounds, and it's really influenced how we hire, which is a very untraditional method relative to other firms. I think that is the makeup for the most successful company and team that we could have, because we can pair people on our team with clients based on who they resonate with, and not just say, okay, we're all trying to be the same, we're all trying to be homogenous, when we're servicing a wide array of clients from different ethnicities, different genders, different backgrounds, different types of businesses, living in all different neighborhoods in Nashville. And so, yeah, it's been really rewarding.
I like how you use the word, you call yourself like a misfit, where you're just searching for somebody that like thinks like you do. And that's what makes Yo so freaking amazing, because I've too felt like a misfit, like a weirdo. Like, why am I having all these ideas and like nobody else is even thinking about, other than there's just like their surface level sports and, just whatever. So like, you go to those dinner parties and you're holding your drink and you're talking to somebody and it's like, get me out of here. I am so done with this because it's not exciting.
Yeah.
So you saw that EO is kind of like a place for you to be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, and I think, there's always a search. And I think I've kind of come to be okay with the idea that that's probably just natural as an entrepreneur, is to always feel a little isolated. Mm-hmm. And I think it's, it makes it that much more important to always be seeking out that community. And when you do meet someone that you connect with on a deeper level, to really cultivate that relationship, because it is really rare.
How did you go about defining the culture of your business? Because what you're doing is very unique.
Yeah, I think going back to this, which I didn't necessarily intend for this to be the common thread through this whole podcast, but going back to this idea of like being a misfit or an outsider, when I got into the industry, so I guess a little like quick, talked a little bit about high school, talked about right before I started the company and starting it. But between that, I never thought I would do anything in business. I didn't think that I had the skill set for it. It wasn't ever, I was, listening to advisors, my parents, et cetera, find a safe job. I thought I was going to be a teacher and maybe convert that into like policy or something in government. I was a poli-sci major in college. And so right after I graduated college, I had a fellowship for a year working in higher ed at the university that I went to. And then I moved back to Nashville and I started teaching. That was the quickest no for me. I was in and out within the first semester. There were other factors at play. It was a very, very challenging school, but I will forever be thankful for that experience because it set perspective for me that I think is very rare in this industry. So I was as a achievement driven person, I was 22 or 23 and like, okay, so I had this grand plan of how all this stuff was going to work out. I was going to get my master's in education while I'm doing this teaching degree. And I just quit my job and my whole plan is wrecked. And this is what I've been planning on for the last 4 years. So, at that point, at the time, maybe it felt like hitting rock bottom. It was, looking back, it was the biggest blessing in disguise. But at that time I was like, I'm back in Nashville and what is the common theme of what I have done that with my life so far that I haven't liked, and it was bureaucracy. And so I was like, well, what haven't I done? And it was anything in for profit. So I had interned at some like political internships in college and worked in education. And so I was like, where can I grow as the logical mind that I tend to have? And it was healthcare, entertainment, real estate. Entertainment, I quickly ruled out. Most of my life been pretty pop culture illiterate. And so figured that was not necessarily leaning into my natural strengths. Healthcare, I've always been passionate about wellness and just all of the different aspects of that. But the jobs that I was seeing were more insurance based and felt like a little too bureaucratic. And then real estate was by process of elimination where I ended up. So I just got an entry level job. It was, and I got to know the industry really quickly. I tend to be sort of an all or nothing person, dive in head first, and was like, okay, if this is what my next chapter is, I'm going to commit to learning as many things about this as I can. I've got to catch up. I was in my mind, I was like, if only I had in freshman year of college known this, but I got to make up for lost time. I don't think now looking back that anything that I did was ever a waste of time, or I think it all happened for a reason and points to and kind of brings together into what we do at Ojas now. But at the time, it didn't necessarily feel like that. So I just networked as much as I possibly could. I was in a very entry-level position, kind of thankless job, not like the least sexy as it gets of any job in commercial real estate. But I was like, this is a job and I'm going to use this year I'm going to commit to doing this for a year, and I'm going to just talk to as many people as I possibly can to understand all the different directions that I could go within this industry. And through that, and then subsequently, as after I went through that process, decided that brokerage was the next best step for me. And then after that, I was at the other company for 2.5 years. But I recognized, I was like, if I am going to, I love this content, back to the sort of the trifecta thing I was talking about. I love this content. So that box was checked. And then when I went into brokerage, I think that used some of my unique skill sets. But what's missing is I don't feel like I resonate on the whole. I don't want to make a blanket statement, because there's some amazing people that I'm very close to in this city and beyond and nationally in this industry that don't work in my company. But in general, we'll just say the stereotypes of the industry, I did not resonate with. I didn't check hardly any of the boxes of the stereotypical person in this world.
Can I talk about the stereotypical commercial broker?
I know some.
Yeah,
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I've probably talked, I don't know how many commercial realtors I've talked to, but at our peak, we had like over 70 stores. And so I've negotiated leases, made phone calls from the phone number outside of a release sign and called these people. In general, what a bunch of jerks.
It's a fraternity house sort of feel.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
like I could imagine how you're kicking their fannies because you're just being nice. Like that, I just have not been impressed with. There's a few that I would pick up and call, but most of the other, they act like you're lucky to be on a phone call with them if they will call you back. Anyway, that's my diatribe. Sorry.
No, it's a customer service business, yet there's not a lot of customer service. And I think it was that. And then just sort of to your point, fraternity, I'm the furthest, like the life that I live is like pretty much everything you can think of that's the opposite of a fraternity. So in my interest, nothing wrong with that. It just is not where I feel like a culture that I feel like I resonated with. And so I was like, if I'm going to sustain in this industry, it's going to be, I think when I went out on my own, I was like, I need to be autonomous and be able to do my own thing. But that's when I quickly realized there's so much potential. It's like where the challenge is where the opportunity lies the most. And there's so many people, especially for what we do, which is really being brand aware, understanding kind of what's trending and on the coast, anticipating what is going to be demanded in Nashville before people necessarily know that it's a thing. And so that type of person is not necessarily, the stereotypical frat bro. So that is what I think that's where I talked about earlier that I underestimated who was going to be. And we have people on our team. It's really just like so amazing, the diversity of personalities and backgrounds and interests. And I think back to the culture, I can't remember exactly what the question was, but I guess just how you, how I like have kind of formed that. I think it's just like, what's the workplace that I never had that I would have dreamed to, have, and that would have been where I would have wanted to work. And how was I not treated that I wish I had been treated? And that really has sort of been the premise for what I've tried to create in terms of just the standards and the way that we treat each other and our clients. And I'm really big on this idea of like, we got to be good from the inside out. And so that starts with me. I got to be constantly working on myself and reflecting on how I can be improving. And then that extends to our team culture. We got to be really hyper focused on our communication skills and working through conflict head on when it arises so that then we can service our clients. And I have to navigate this, like, not coming across as like super woo woo and very, because a lot of our clients are very buttoned up institutional, especially on the landlord side. We work with landlords and we work with brands. The brands, you can lean into some of this stuff that feels a little bit, coloring outside the lines a little bit more. But with our institutional clients, it's, it's like, it's better for everybody's bottom line. If we're aligned in lockstep internally, then we're going to be able to service you because we're not going to be dealing with a bunch of drama. And one way that I've done that there's so many ways, but it's just to keep things like stupid simple, as I put it. And when it comes to brokerages, a lot of the brokerage model is commission based. And I have seen so often there be things like so much time wasted with internal negotiations. And so I just set up a model, and I'm very proud to say that like we've never had a big dispute or anything internally about financials and commissions, et cetera, because it's up front. This is what it is. This is what the splits are with the house. Here's the tiers. And then if you're working with someone else, you're splitting it evenly. If you're more senior, you're probably going to do less of the work, add more of the value. And if you're junior, you're going to do more of the work, and you're not adding as much value out of the gate. And then over time, it all evens out. And it's just created this culture of trust, and abundance mindset is another huge value of ours, because I saw very early on this scarcity mindset across the industry. And I just knew that that's not the environment that I wanted to be coming to work in every day. And so, yeah, that's just a few of the things that but really just kind of creating the workplace that I wanted to be working in, working on the content that I wanted to be working on.
That's great.
That resonates with me for sure. We could talk culture. We'll do that offline a lot more.
Sounds good. I know I could go on.
Yeah.
Last question. So we need more younger people in EO. What would you tell a young entrepreneur just joining EO to help them along to get more value out of EO?
Mm-hmm. I think just making connections with being very specific in the connections that you make. Because I think there are a lot of great people in EO, and I feel pretty strongly that if you reach out to any of them, they would ask to, or they would be more than happy to sit down, get coffee, etc. So I think owning it. I say this with the background that I don't feel like I have fully utilized EO to the level that I could have. So I think that I still have a lot of work to do. And when I came into it, I was very upfront with myself that I wasn't going to put too much pressure and then burn myself out because I was trying to do it all. So yeah, but I would say still being relatively new, I'm still learning the best ways to plug in. But I think one of the things for me that's been so valuable is the email thread that in the Google groups, so I guess if I'm going based off my own experience, don't be afraid to ask questions on that and put yourself out there, because I've always gotten valuable advice when I've done that.
I mean, this over 300 of us, we know everyone in town.
Yeah.
Yep.
Somebody knows somebody, and you can get an introduction to just about anybody.
Yep.
So what's a good tribe to be?
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to ask.
Yeah.
Yes. Be willing to ask. All right. Thank you so much.
Of course.
If you are a budding entrepreneur as well in Nashville, Tennessee, and you are looking to belong to a tribe because it's lonely being an owner of a business, you can't really talk about the business with your spouse, and your friends don't get it. But we get it, and we're here in Nashville. You can visit eonashville.com and see how over 300 entrepreneurs get together every single month together and help make decisions together. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.